Thursday, August 15th marks Korea's 79th Liberation Day, and that applies to North and South Korea, making Liberation Day unique among 20th century events in that it's celebrated as a holiday by both Koreas. So, in line with the Liberation Day theme, let's use Looking North this week as an opportunity to look at this holiday in more detail, how it's honoured in the North and South, but also how their respective relationships stand today with Japan, the nation whose colonial rule Korea celebrates liberation from, and why, despite this shared bond, the Koreas are further apart than ever. August 15th, 1945. It was a key moment in World War II when Imperial Japan announced its surrender. It also signaled the end of Japanese rule over Korea, which had lasted 35 years. It was an era that's remembered for its suffering, from the stripping away of Korean identity to forced labor and sexual slavery, but also its independence movement that remains a source of pride today, particularly when North Korea is concerned and the role claimed by its national founder, Kim Il-sung. But the Korean Peninsula was and is united in its grief and then celebration over those decades. For North Korea, its August 15th holiday translates as Liberation of the Country Day. South Korea's Gwangbokjeol means something rather poetic, Restoration of Light Day, even if the legacy of the darkness continues in the division of the peninsula. Let's see how both sides celebrate this occasion. In South Korea, you'll see its national flag everywhere, in public squares, hanging from homes, adorning holiday events, and so on. This year, various tourist destinations across the South are hosting programs to demonstrate the heroism of independence fighters, as well as performances and games. Interestingly, North Koreans are said to use this holiday to relax, as Liberation Day doesn't carry the same level of politicization as other major holidays in the North. People might do things that would be very recognizable in South Korea, like visiting a beach or park. We've seen events in previous years, though, in which residents and soldiers have commemorated Kim Il-sung in gratitude for the part he's said to have played in the liberation of the nation. And we also often see Seoul and Pyongyang use Liberation Day to release political messages. North Korean state media has in the past emphasized the importance of loyalty to the regime, stressing how independence fighters had been loyalists who sacrificed their lives to carry out their superiors' orders, while criticizing Japan's failure to recognize its inhumane crimes and return to militarization. By contrast, South Korea has been moving nearer to Japan in the name of trilateral cooperation with the United States, specifically to counter weapon threats posed by North Korea. President Yoon Suk-yeol used his Liberation Day speech last year to insist that Korea and Japan are now partners who share universal values and pursue common interests. So, Liberation Day messaging has come to underscore very different attitudes towards Japan. And to be fair, that's true even within South Korea's political and social landscape, as protests are regularly held in Seoul to call for Japan to sincerely atone for its colonial era abuses. But clearly, Seoul and Tokyo are getting closer. If we consider just recently, at the start of June, the two sides' defense ministers agreed to normalize bilateral defense ties that had been gathering dust since Yoon's predecessor Moon Jae-in was in office. And with South Korea and Japan strengthening their own relationship, continuing to stress their shared values and common strategic interests, we're moving beyond Seoul and Tokyo begrudgingly cooperating under American persuasion. Then last month, Japan's top military general met his South Korean counterpart for the first time in 6 years, still citing North Korean threats as an important factor drawing them together. Meanwhile, North Korea has condemned their strengthening ties, claiming the relationship between Seoul, Tokyo, and Washington has become the Asian version of NATO, particularly in light of their joint military drills. But North Korea itself hasn't exactly been ignoring Japan. In a year that's seen Pyongyang continue to shun dialogue with South Korea and the United States, we might recall that North Korea and Japan have been talking. Back in January, North Korean state media reported how Kim Jong-un had expressed his deep sympathy and condolences to Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida, whose country had been rocked by an earthquake. In over a decade since rising to power, Kim had never before sent a public message to a Japanese leader. Kishida also was referred to as His Excellency. Then came months of discussions over a possible summit between the two leaders, though they ultimately broke down over the long-standing issue of Japan seeking to address what it claims to be an unresolved matter, North Korea's past abduction of Japanese nationals. So this year's Liberation Day comes in the wake of geopolitical developments. But even with the growing chasm between the Koreas, we may well still hear united criticism of Japan from both sides. For instance, they've both criticized Japanese official visits to the Yasukuni Shrine, seen as a symbol of Japanese militarism in the past because it honors the country's war dead, including 14 Class A war criminals. Such visits, in line with the anniversary of Japan's World War II surrender, stir up old resentments in North and South Korea. In light of their shared history, this year, President Yoon's Liberation Day speech highlights a new vision for Korean unification. We were told this over a week before August 15th. That looks like a fading dream for now, given that North Korea has shifted its position away from any hopes for a unified Korean peninsula, now viewing the South as its primary enemy. But on Liberation Day, we are reminded of the unity that once was fought for. They celebrated freedom, and perhaps within this memory, it's still there, this hope to pursue liberation from today's threats. If you want to share your own Liberation Day message, please leave a comment. We always appreciate your likes, your shares, your subscriptions. Until next time, this has been Looking North.